Hey, what is up, everybody? Jeremy here. And guys, I'm very excited for the conversation we're going to have today as we have Dr. Jen Pratt with us today. And we're really looking at not only her story of her cancer journey and how she's actually helping others now as well, but also the bigger mission of the Make-A-Wish Foundation as well. So Dr. Pratt, thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
Well, thanks for having me.
So I want to find out a little bit about, your personal cancer journey. When were you first diagnosed?
Yeah, so my journey begins several decades ago, kind of rewind to the early 90s. I was 10 years old and was an avid basketball player, figure skater, kind of doing the typical things that 10-year-olds do. Enjoyed school, friends, pretty typical childhood until things really dramatically were disrupted for me. Unfortunately, I developed a pain in my leg. Was having some knee pain that initially I thought was maybe a sports injury. Luckily, my mom brought me to the pediatrician after complaining about this in what I thought was an injury for several weeks. And she got an x-ray. So I was really lucky that at that visit, they were able to find that I had a tumor in my knee.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So obviously that caused shock to anyone. And was not what we were expecting at all. So at that point, my life was really turned upside down. We were referred to Children's Minnesota, which is our local children's hospital. And from that point, it was kind of a whirlwind. I think if you talk to any parent or child who's been through a cancer diagnosis, they'll tell you that, their world is really just turned upside down pretty quickly.
Well, I think it's interesting because it's, you look at most families, I think that's an extremely stressful situation because not only do you have this new, look at mortality in some ways, you also have the family situation changes a lot, right? How you're going through your day, how, families going different places. So I guess for you, and your family, what was that adjustment process like? What was the stress like? What was that like?
Yeah. So I sister who was in kindergarten at the time. And both my parents worked outside of the home. So it really disrupted so much. My mom had to take a leave of absence from her job, help with appointments, and be with me in the hospital. We were fortunate she was able to do that. And, I know my sister's life too was dramatically upended. Just having to see, her sister go through, what was happening and see the stress that it was causing for my parents too. It's traumatic. I think that's the important thing to remember with this. It's just any sort of critical, life-threatening illness like this is just very stressful and traumatic for families, especially at the time of diagnosis. It's just such a shock.
Is that something in some ways you still like yourself, and I feel like other people that have been through that situation still carry parts of that, or what is that like for you?
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting. Next month is actually the anniversary of the day that I was diagnosed. And it's a day that, every time it comes around, I remember what happened that day and what we were feeling. It's pretty powerful. Um, but it's also a day that, we celebrate because I'm still here and, I've overcome, my cancer journey and am able to be in a position where I can help other children and families. So, um, in a way, looking back, it's something that was hard, but also something that, I can celebrate too at this point.
When did Make a Wish come into this whole picture for you? When did that come into your life?
Yeah. So when I was diagnosed, I initially went through some surgeries and pretty intense chemotherapy. I was in and out of the hospital pretty frequently. And fortunately, one of the pediatric oncology social workers introduced us to Make a Wish. And I knew right away what my wish was going to be. That's always a fun thing as a child, being told, "Hey, come up with any wish. What do you want to do?" Um, and that
I think
experience,
that in itself of just making you dream, like in a period where I imagine it's probably difficult to dream, like making you dream just must be an amazing outlet.
oh, absolutely. Like, it's in a way, it let me reclaim a part of my childhood that was taken away. Um, Children who are going through cancer treatment oftentimes aren't able to attend school regularly. They miss out on, regular kid stuff and holidays. And I was unable to play sports anymore at that point. So it was just so much of missing out on things that
Mhm.
being able to come up with a wish was a way for me to reclaim that, which
So
was really important.
so what did you end up like choosing for that wish?
Yeah, so I knew right away. So when I was going through my treatments, I was really interested in animation and drawing. So it was one thing that always helped me cope and was a nice distraction.
Hmm.
So I knew that I wanted to go to Walt Disney World in Florida and meet one of the animators for my favorite movie, which at the time it was like Lion King, Pocahontas, the early classics that we all love.
I think we're around the same age, so those are like all the movies
Yeah.
I grew up with too.
So and it really was something that just kept me going. It was kind of this point in time where things were really hard with my treatment. The chemotherapy was really intense, and I was sick a lot. I actually missed pretty much most of the sixth grade because I was in and out of the hospital. And it just gave me something to look forward to, which I think is something that, kids and families that are dealing with a critical illness, they need, and it can be really be a turning point in their treatment.
I think it's like a huge misconception around, the idea of make a wish and getting a wish is that a lot of times, and because I think for myself, I remember ESPN does this series called My Wish that they do every year where they cover, some of the Wish kids and things like that. And I think there's this misconception around it being like someone's last wish. When what you talked about, like for you, it was dreaming again. It was, opening up. It was, getting all these activities you missed as a kid. Like it actually was the hope to get through.
Exactly. Yeah, and what we know is most kids that get a wish actually go on to survive. And
Oh,
real,
that's incredible. I didn't realize that.
yeah, and you're right. It's a misconception. It is a misconception. We know that most kids go on to survive, and that Make a Wish plays a huge part in that recovery process. Recently, Make a Wish did a wish impact study, which surveyed families, children that have received a wish, as well as physicians that have treated them. And the results are really astounding. Um, Almost unanimously, everyone felt that, having a wish granted really impacted their sense of emotional well-being positively, and their ability to cope with their illness and that recovery process, which is huge.
Hmm. And you know what's interesting about that too, Dr. Pratt, is I don't think people consider the mental health aspects of it, right? Like they just think of, the disease and things like that. And in this case, like I don't know, I'm a big believer in, what you put your attention on is a lot of what you get. And I think that from the mental health aspect, like being able to look positive, I think can also pull you through that.
Absolutely. So, as a pediatrician myself, I know that, mental health really equates to physical health. I see that every day. And it's just such an important piece of the recovery process when you're dealing with a serious life threatening illness. Um, and for me, it was huge. It was something that really got me through the hardest times and just helped me stay positive about everything. So I do really credit, Make-A-Wish and this whole experience to helping me recover and look positively into the future.
Do you feel like you have any lasting benefits from that experience, like anything that sticks with you?
Oh, absolutely. So actually, a couple weeks ago, I was able to travel down to Florida with my family, my parents and my sister, who were on my original Wish trip. And we visited. So when you go down for Make Wish, oftentimes families will stay at a place called Give Kids the World, which is a special resort for families that are there on a Wish trip. And we were able to go back and visit where my wish occurred. And it's really neat. So they have this like castle in the resort that has a star from every child who has granted a wish. And you write your name on the star and you put it up on the wall. So I was actually able to go find this, star that I put up. It was actually 27 years ago, and it was still there. And it was kind of cool looking at that and seeing, my handwriting as a young child, and seeing that star still up on the wall and realizing how far I've come. That, I survived, and now I'm in a position where I can help other kids, help other families through this process.
Did that have an impact on you choosing to be a medical professional and working with children yourself?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. So it just gave me, that sense of hope as I was going through, one of the most challenging things I've ever experienced. And it helped me realize that I have so much to give back and so much to offer to other children that may be dealing with the same thing in the future. And I remember, my parents were like, sitting in the exam room with my doctor, and they're like, "So she wants to be you one day. She's going to come back."
Well, that's amazing.
And yeah, so I did. I work at the same hospital that I was treated at Children's Minnesota. And I'm a hospitalist. So that's a pediatrician that specializes in the care of hospitalized children. And I'm fortunate enough, I get to volunteer with Make a Wish Minnesota as a medical advisor. So I review wishes for travel safety and help with the organization in that way, which is great.
You know what's interesting, and this is, and I may be totally wrong on this, but it makes sense to me that like being somebody that was through the program, you survived, you're thriving, like it would make a lot of sense for other kids going through Make a Wish to see someone like yourself involved in the program still, because they can see that and they can say like what you said, like I want to be like her.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I think, it helps kids realize too that so many people who do receive wishes go on to have long, fulfilling lives. And there is this opportunity to be able to give back in ways that are big and ways that are small. And having been through a critical illness is a really unique perspective. So I hope that kids who are going through something like this and families that are impacted by critical illness in a child are, realize that they have a big gift. And there's so many ways to be able to give back and support others who are going through the same thing.
Well, we are in April, and World Wish Day is coming soon. So for those listening, what is that?
Yeah, so World Wish Day is a celebration of the first wish that was granted by Make a Wish. It's on April 29th, and this was when the first wish was granted 42 years ago. So, in the month leading up to that, we're trying to get the word out about that wish impact study that was recently done this last year that really shows how important these wishes are for families and children.
Very cool. So for people listening, if they want to find out more about Make a Wish, if they want to get involved, where's the best place for people listening to go?
Yeah, absolutely. So to learn more about the Wish Impact Study and to find out how you can get involved in the organization, you can visit wish.org.
Very cool. Well, Dr. Jen Pratt, I appreciate your story. I appreciate your time today, and just really thank you so much for being out there and spreading the good word.
Yeah, thank you.